Today we're going to take a look at a build of Meren, Clan of Tel Noth. This is a Golgari commander that has been a favorite of many commander players for a while now, and we're going to take a look at how the deck functions. First up, Meren cost green, black, and 2 generic, and whenever another creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. Now, experience counters are just there. They're like emblems. They don't go away. You can't get rid of them. They're not able to be removed by casting spells that target a player or any of those kind of things. They're just there. And then at the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's converted mana cost is less than or equal to the number of experience counters, you may return it to the battlefield. Otherwise, it put it to your hand. So even if you don't have enough experience counters to return a creature and to the battlefield, you can at least get it back to your hand. And this is why this deck is so versatile, is because you can get stuff back, whether it's battlefield or the hand, very easily. We do run a planeswalker, and this is because Grist is both a creature and a planeswalker. So as long as Grist isn't on the battlefield, it's a 1/1 insect. So in our graveyard, if Grist dies, Grist can come back as a planeswalker because it's a creature in our graveyard. So that's kind of cool. Its abilities are also helpful to our deck. The +1 that we create a black and green insect token and then mill a card. If it's an insect, we repeat this process and put another counter on Grist. That gives us something that we can later get back, hopefully. That also gives us a creature to sacrifice if we need to. It's -2, we may sacrifice a creature when we do destroy a target creature or planeswalker, so we can even use later on, if we still have the insect, we can sacrifice it and destroy something of our opponent's, getting an experience counter. Or this helps us to sacrifice something and begin a chain that we have. And then the -5 really isn't relevant here because we don't usually have tons and tons of creatures in our graveyard, but you can -5 and each opponent loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard, which usually is maybe just a couple because that's not the point of the deck. We do run a good amount of creatures in the deck though, and some of which are going to combo off, and we'll talk about what the combos are our deck has in a little bit. We do run Walking Ballista in the deck. Carrion Feeder is a sack outlet for us. Cost of Caterpillar is repeatable, which is nice because we can pay a green and a 1 to sacrifice it, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So we'll sacrifice it, get an experience counter, destroy something. We can bring it back with Meren's ability and have a way of removal on the board for a long time. Deathrite Shaman is very versatile in our deck. It has lots of options for us. We can make mana. We can get rid of an instant or sorcery card and have an opponent lose 2 life, or we can gain a little bit of life. Haywire Might is similar to the cost of Caterpillar. When it dies though, we're going to gain 2 life, so that's going to help us out just a little bit over the course of the game. And then for a green, we can sacrifice and we exile a target non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment, and it's not just from the graveyard. Ravenous Squirrel is another way to sacrifice things for us, but it also gives us a little bit of life gain and some card draw, which is helpful. Spore Frog is everybody's annoying frog because you just sacrifice it, prevent all combat damage, and with Meren's ability it comes back, and it's going to be really tough for our opponents to be able to do a lot of damage to us if we have the Spore Frog chain ready to go quite frequently. It's going to make them use a lot more resources to be able to deal with us. Viscera Seer is another sack outlet for us. Blood Artist is a way to help our opponents die because we're sacrificing things, but we're not really doing anything besides getting these experience counters, and this will help to slowly drain somebody and gain us some life. Canker Blossom is versatile, kind of like how cost the Caterpillar and the Haywire Might is. We can pay 1, sacrifice it, and we either destroy an artifact or enchantment, and we proliferate. And when we proliferate, we can proliferate our experience counters. Lesser Mastercore is a combo piece. And so it has Persist, which means when it dies, if it had no -1/-1 counters, it comes back with -1/-1 counters. So this plus one other piece that we are going to talk about is going to help us. So we need Blood Artist on the field too. And then Lesser Mastercore and Melraya are a infinite combo. If we have Blood Artist on the field, we have Lesser Mastercore, and we have Melraya. This will infinitely come back when we get rid of the Lesser Mastercore and allow us to ping the table down. Outland Liberator is nice because, again, we can pay 1 and destroy something. Witherbloom Apprentice is part of a combo that doesn't necessarily involve our commander, so if we get in a pickle, we can try to go down those lines. Zulaport Cutthroat is another way to drain our opponents and help close it out. Eternal Witness is great, gets us some recursion out of our graveyard. Fleshbag Marauder is kind of fun because we can keep recurring it and it's going to make our opponents slowly sack a couple things. Manglehorn is just good value for us. It destroys an artifact of an opponent's, but it makes theirs come in tapped, which helps to slow them down a little bit. Merciless Executioner is similar to Fleshbag Marauder. It can get annoying and be repeatable so that we can get rid of some things from our opponents. Op Agent so that we can hopefully keep them from tutoring as much. Plaguecrafter is the same as Fleshbag Marauder and Merciless Executioner. Rex Sage, another way to blow stuff up. So if you're noticing, all of our creatures have some kind of thing usually that they're going to do when they enter, so that if we are able to bring them back with the ability of Meren, we are going to be able to recur that. Foundation Breaker, another destroy. Necrotic Ooze is a combo piece. So Necrotic Ooze has all activated abilities of all creature cards in all graveyards. So if we have Necrotic Ooze, and let's say Walking Ballista is in the graveyard, then it has the ability of Walking Ballista. We then need a way to be able to put counters on it, and if we're able to do that, we could then win the game with a Walking Ballista combo. Vindictive Lich, another type of effect for us that is very versatile. Yawgmoth is another sack outlet for us. Gary, this is a fun way to kill the table because it's going to come in and usually hit for at least 3 or 4, maybe more depending on how late in the game we are. And then we're going to gain some life, and then if Gary dies, so what? We'll bring him back and do it again. So DC is nice because when it dies from an exploit trigger, from us sacrificing a creature, we could search for a card and put it in our hand, so it helps us tutor. Chaos is another infinite combo with Walking Ballista and or Necrotic Ooze. If we have a counter on Walking Ballista, then we can remove it, do some damage. Necrotic Ooze, if part of that combo, leads to an infinite combo. Triskelion is similar to that as the Walking Ballista. And then the Protein Hog helps us go get all those pieces. Sorceries, we have tutors like Green Sun Zenith to help us get things, Reanimate to bring stuff back. Chain of Smog is in the deck because it goes with the Witherbloom Apprentice. Witherbloom Apprentice and Chain of Smog is a 2-card combo that wins the game if it resolves and doesn't require our commander. And then of course we have other tutors like Demonic Tutor, Diabolic Tutor, Finale of Devastation. Unmarked Grave, we can put something in our graveyard and we can get it back with our Meren ability, so we could go after one of the many creatures. Buried Alive, it's going to make our opponents choose what goes to the graveyard, is tough. Grim Tutor, and then Life and Death, all ways to get things in our graveyard and then eventually get them back. Instants what you would expect in a typical Golgari deck. We have removal and protection from things like Autumn's Veil, Nature's Claim, Noxious Revival, Whirly Tutor. All of these things are just interactions so that we can slowly get to where we want to be. Artifacts are important to our deck because we have things like Skull Clamp, so we can clamp maybe the insect that Grist makes, kill it, and draw 2 cards, which is good. Altar of Dementia is a sack outlet, so if we get in a way where we don't actually have one of our pingers, but we have the Altar of Dementia, we can infinitely sack and recur things, and that's one way to win the game, is mill our opponents out. Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar just make infinite mana of colored or colorless, and then hopefully we're able to do something from there. Birthing Pod has been in Meren for a long time, but it is actually one of the cards that I might cut out of Meren just because it's too slow for the effect that it has, and it's very, very specific for how you use it, because you sacrifice a creature and you go get one that has a converted mana cost of 1 plus that sacrificed creature's mana cost, so it's super specific. It does go along with our Protein Hulk lines, but may be cut in future builds of Meren as other cards become more relevant. And then the One Ring has found a slot, as it has in most decks, just because no matter when it lands, it's been pretty good for us. Enchantments, we have Carpet of Flowers, which also may get cut because it hasn't been as useful lately, and people can play around it. So that's another card that, as we continue to upgrade Meren, may eventually find its way out of the deck. Sylvan Library, just some good card value. And Death Reap Ritual is nice because if a creature died this turn, we draw a card. Well, that's good, because we're going to probably have some of our stuff die. Lands are what you would expect. We did add one of the lands from the Lord of the Rings, the Barad-dûr, which when it enters, it does enter tapped unless we control legendary creatures, so if we have our commander, it's fine. And then we can dump some extra mana into it to amass Orcs X. You can only do this during a time that a creature died this turn, but it might help us to then give us something to either block with, to attack with, or even possibly as sacrifice fodder. So we're testing this out. I'm not too sure if this is going to stay in the deck or not. It's not a card that I would necessarily just want to always have, but if I've got some extra mana, it does seem to help a little bit to be able to make a blocker. Boseiju is here for obvious reasons, it's removal. Castle Locthwain is here to help us draw some cards. Again, this is another card that may not make it in the overall deck, but it is nice to be able to have card draw and be able to draw cards. So if we lose only one life and we draw one card, that's not too bad. High Market is another way to help sacrifice things and gain us a little bit of life, so that's good for our deck. And so is Phyrexian Tower. Phyrexian Tower allows us to sack a creature and make 2 black. So those are important. We have lots of ways to sacrifice things, and we have ways to put those combos together. If there's other cards that you have used in Meren and you find helpful, please let us know. We'd love to hear them in the comments below. And if you have played Meren, we'd love to hear how the deck has functioned for you and some of your experiences with it. So please share those with us.